everyone, this is Bhatnagar. I basically teach zoology or biology at class 11th and 12th level and help students in preparing for the pre-medical entrance examinations. Today in this mini lecture, we are going to discuss about chapter 21, chapter 21st of class 11th NCRT, that is neural control and coordination, a very important chapter as far as NEET examination is concerned, right? So let us talk about this chapter. So I'm going to discuss a particular topic, that is sensory reception and processing, and in that I'm going to discuss the structure of ear, or basically the ear. So if we are going to talk about the human ear, अभी तक हम लोगों ने सुना है what is the function of ear, तो ear का function है सुनना. But there's many more things associated with this engineering marvel. Why engineering marvel? First of all, it performs two major functions of your body. We are going to discuss that very soon. Other than that, if I may tell you, you know that there are photoreceptors present in our eye, and those photoreceptors, they perceive, or basically they capture, or they receive the stimulus of vision, the stimulus of light, right? And you know all about the light of speed and how our nervous system works and what is the speed of the nerve impulses which travels in our neurons through the axons continuously. But if I may tell you, एक बात समझने की कोशिश करो कि जितनी स्पीड से आपके फोटोरिसेप्टर्स लाइट के स्टिमुलस को परसीव करते हैं बेटा, उससे 1000 टाइम्स फास्टर आपके फोनोरिसेप्टर्स, जो कि आपके ऑडिटरी रिसेप्टर्स है. ऑडिट टर्म मीन्स हियरिंग, राइट? सो योर ऑडिटरी रिसेप्टर्स वर्क 1000 टाइम्स फास्टर एज कंपेयर टू योर फोटोरिसेप्टर्स, and they perceive the stimulus of sound. Sound waves of the amplitude as small as a diameter of an atom, that is 0.3 nanometers. इतने नैनोमीटर की साउंड, इतनी नैनोमीटर के एम्पलीट्यूड के साउंड वेव को भी परसीव कर सकता है आपके ऑडिटरी रिसेप्टर्स 1000 times faster than the photoreceptors which are present in your eyes, the rods and the cones, right? So that is why I'm calling it as an engineering marvel, which is fitted into the next and the most extensive, most advanced type of engineering marvel that your human body is. So they're fitted right into the lateral sides of our heads, basically into the cranial bone, which is called as temporal bone. So let us go, let us dive into the structure of ear and let us understand the mystery that unfolds with it, right? So human ear, if I'm going to tell you what is human ear and what are the functions basically it does, कोई भी चीज अगर हमारी बॉडी में है, essentially mostly वो किसी ना किसी फंक्शन को सर्व करने के लिए. तो अगर हम ह्यूमन ईयर की बात करें तो ह्यूमन ईयर के दो फंक्शंस होते हैं, राइट? वन ऑफ द फंक्शन इज बेसिकली hearing, that you all know, but I would place this function of hearing at the second position, right? Second position पे क्यों रखा है? क्योंकि शायद थोड़ा कम important है किसी और चीज से जिसको हम first position पे रखने वाले हैं. So basically, one and the most important function of the human ear is the maintenance of balance, what you call as the maintenance of equilibrium of your body along with the cerebrum of the hindbrain. So one of the function of your ear is maintenance of balance, and the other function, remember, other function of ear is hearing. So may I call it as a special organ, which is an which is a stato-acoustic organ. Organ, you know, what are organs? Basically any structure that consists of 4 kinds of tissues: the epithelial, the connective, the muscular and the nervous tissue. So that is an organ which performs 2 basic functions. First function is acoustic function. Acoustic, हम लोग सुनते हैं कोक स्टूडियो, हम लोग सुनते हैं म्यूजिक, बेसिकली जो हमको पंप अप कर देता है और पढ़ाई करने के लिए, रिजुविनेट कर देता है. तो acoustic means sound, right? And Stato यानी constant मतलब equilibrium यानी basically balance. So this is about the balance. कैसा balance madam? So there can be two kinds of balance, like I'm standing here steady, but then my body is in complete balance, right? My head is not, unless and until my head is not rotating. So when I'm standing, which means when I'm still, when I'm static, that time also I have some organs which are looking after the balance of my body. And when I run fastly, right, when I drive fastly, and when I move my body fastly, and when I dance, that is when my body is working very hard to maintain the balance. And which kind of balance? Balance in movement, that is called as the dynamic balance. So two kinds of balance are there in the sea. First is the static balance, right? And second is the dynamic balance. Static balance, imagine करिए कि आप एक elevator में खड़े, so your body is not moving, but then you are moving along with a certain structure, up or down, right? So this will be called as linear acceleration or linear deacceleration. So at that time, static balance is being maintained. And when you are running in a marathon, suppose, so you're moving, your body is moving, the proprioceptors are working with that change in your position, and that will be called as dynamic equilibrium or dynamic balance. So basically, चलते वक्त, रुकते वक्त, आपकी बॉडी में बैलेंस बना के रखना आपके ईयर का पार्ट भी है, आपके ईयर का फंक्शन, along with the cerebrum as well. And second one is the perception of sound. बात समझ में आना, कैच करना, फिर ब्रेन को भेजना सेंसरी नर्व से, ताकि वो इम्पल्स जो है वो बेसिकली प्रोसेस हो पाए आपके ब्रेन के एसोसिएशन एरियाज में, और वो बात जो आपको सुनाई आ रही है, वो आवाज जो आपको सुनाई आ रही है, वो प्रोसेस हो पाए. Okay, so basically this is about the general introduction about the functions of the ear. Now we are going to discuss about the anatomy of the ear. You know, it is such a fascinating structure, such a fascinating engineering, that how an organ is designed so that it could, you know, make you hear the sound waves of as low as 20 hertz to as long as large as 20,000 hertz. So that is basically the range of sound which our ears, human ears, can perceive, right? With different organisms, different animals, this varies. Okay. So if I'm going to talk about the ear can be anatomically divided into three sections, right? So if we go from the outer side to the inner side, there are three compartments, there are three parts of the ear. First one is the outer ear. Inside the outer ear, there is a middle cavity, there is a middle part of the ear which is called as the middle ear. And then there is inner ear, right? And to your knowledge, your inner ear is very ghumavdar, right? And it is also called as labyrinth. Do you know the meaning of labyrinth? The term labyrinth literally means bulbulaya. So the inner ear is coiled in such a manner that basically it resembles a bulbulaya. Fine. So let's go into the depths of these particular three compartments or three parts of the ear. So basically the outer ear consists of three parts. Okay. The first part being the pinna, which is the quintessential mammalian feature. Exceptions are always there in this large living world. So the external pinna, right? Then second organ or the second part of the outer ear which is present is called as the external auditory meatus. Meatus या कैनाल मतलब कि रास्ता जिसके थ्रू आवाज ट्रैवल करके जा रही है. Auditory means sound, and external because it is a part of the outer ear, right? And third part is your eardrum, which is technically called as tympanic membrane or primary tympanum. Okay, so the outer ear, the external ear, it consists of three parts: the external pinna, the external auditory meatus, and the eardrum, which is also called as tympanic membrane because the membrane is structure basically made up of connective tissue. It is also called as primary tympanum. Okay, then we'll come to the middle ear. So basically, this middle ear has an arrangement of smaller bones which acts like liver system and amplify the sound waves. बताऊंगी क्यों amplification की जरूरत है बाद में later part of the lecture. So middle ear, it basically consists of three small bones, right? And these three smaller bones, they are called as ossicles of the ear or ear ossicles. Ossicles, ossification, if you have studied about how the bones are formed from the cartilages by ossification, by deposition of calcium, by the deposition of calcium phosphate, essentially, the cartilages, they turn into bones, solid bones, right? So, three ear ossicles are present, very tiny bones which are present in the middle ear. And then the inner ear. So, the inner ear, I told you that it is called as labyrinth because बहुत घूमा फिरा सा structure है. Snail, अगर आप लोगों ने देखा हो तो how is the snail coiled at the top, right? So that is how this labyrinth is. And the most important part of this inner ear which helps in hearing or audition, that is the cochlea. Also with the cochlea, मैंने एक और function बताया आप लोगों को, that is the function of maintenance of balance. And maintenance of balance is function of another extensive organ which is a part of your inner ear, and that is the vestibular apparatus. एक ही है बाबा body. So the vestibular apparatus. So if you are going to study about the parts of the ear as a whole, so you can say that the ear is divided into three parts: outer, middle, inner. The outer again has three parts, right? Pinna, external auditory meatus or canal, and then there is eardrum, which is also called as tympanic membrane, which is also called as primary tympanum. The middle ear again consists of three smaller, tinier bones which are called as ear ossicles. And then the inner ear, which is also called as labyrinth, has got two structures. First of the structure which is associated with hearing is cochlea, and the second which is associated with the balance, either static balance or dynamic balance, that is the vestibular apparatus, my dear bachas. Okay, so now this basically is a theoretical outline which you can refer while reading your NCRTs or while reading your study material. Along with this, biology is incomplete until and unless you have a diagram, right? So let us draw the superstructure of the ear, and it is very easy to draw, right? Nothing much complicated. कोई भी चीज complicated तब तक है जब तक वो आपको आती नहीं है क्योंकि आप समय नहीं देते हो. When you'll give समय, when you'll give time, the thing will be yours. So please pay attention here. So three parts of the ear, right? First is the outer ear में three parts. चलो देखते हैं. सबसे पहला part outer ear का जो है हमारा वो है external pinna या pinna simple. So this pinna is basically a trumpet-like organ, a trumpet-like structure. डिश टीवी कैसा होता है हमारा? ऐसा गोल सा. क्यों? क्योंकि वो सारी फ्रीक्वेंसीज को कन्वर्ज करता है, इकट्ठा करता है. तो same goes for your pinna. So the pinna is a curved trumpet-like structure which is used for converging the sound waves into the inner parts of the ear, right? So this whole part, this is called as the pinna, right? This pinna again has two parts. The upper part, which is coiled portion like this is called as the helix because it turns like this. So, and this part, the softer part of your ear, this is called as lobule or lobe, You might have heard dominant and recessive characters, attached earlobe and loose earlobe, right? Attached earlobe and free earlobe, basically recessive and dominant characters. So this is how everyone has seen here from the outside, but ये जो part हमको दिख रहा है, this part is basically the part of outer ear. इसके अंदर बहुत सारा structure है which ears. Now this outer trumpet like structure opens into basically a canal like structure, and this canal like structure is रास्ता है, canal है. So this structure is basically called as external auditory meatus or external auditory canal, right? Now this external auditory canal has got two major important things or structures which are present inside it, right? So one of those structures are very fine hair which are present on the lining of these external auditory meatus, right? So these are fine hair. जैसे आपके nasal epithelium जो है, जो आपका nasal passage था, वहां पे भी fine hairs present थे, right? क्या करते थे? Dust को trap करते थे, germs को trap करते थे. Same function. Dust हो गई, pathogens हो गए, ऐसे particles जो basically अंदर नहीं जाने चाहिए, otherwise they will damage the internal vital parts of layer. So they are trapped by these hairs. And for efficient trapping, you know, there are certain modified sweat glands or sebaceous glands which secrete a wax-like substance which is called as the earwax. So here, basically certain glands, modified sweat glands, sudorific glands or sebaceous glands are present, and these glands essentially they are called as ceruminous glands. And these ceruminous glands, they secrete earwax, which is chemically called as cerumen. Okay, so basically this is your external auditory meatus, and to your knowledge its length is 2.5 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters का रास्ता है आपके पिना के अंदर, ठीक? Now when this external auditory meatus ends, there is an important structure, and this important structure, it is called as, what you call it as your eardrum, what you call it as your tympanic membrane or tympanum because it is singular, or most importantly it is called as the primary tympanum. Okay, the sound waves are converged, इकट्ठी करी जाती है पिना से, then they move from the external auditory meatus, बीच में germs जो है, जो dust particles हैं, ये earwax इकट्ठा कर लेगा आपका, right, along with the tiny fine hairs which are present, and then the sound waves will go and hit this basically a membranous flap-like structure, which is called as the eardrum. Now this eardrum basically it is a connective tissue. कनेक्टिव टिश्यू से बना हुआ है, सही बात है ना? कनेक्ट कर रहा है किसको? आउटर ईयर को और उसके बाद इनर ईयर को. सो कनेक्टिव टिश्यू से बना है. कनेक्टिव टिश्यू तो है, बट फ्रॉम द आउटर साइड मींस फ्रॉम दिस साइड इफ आई गो, देयर विल बी स्किन, right? This connective tissue from which your eardrum or the primary tympanum is made, it is covered by skin from the outer side, and from the inner side there will be mucus. Okay, clear? Fine. Basically when the sound waves come, it hits your eardrum, and this eardrum vibrates like this because it is a very, delicate flap of connective tissue which is present. So these three structures are basically the part of your outer ear. So let me label it that this particular part is the outer ear up to the eardrum. So eardrum essentially is the part of your outer ear. Then if this is the outer ear, now we'll come to the next part, and the next part will be your middle ear. Essentially एक चीज पे ध्यान देना है, यहाँ पे क्या होगा बताओ मुझे, air होगी, right? So this part is also filled with air, and sound waves, they are converged by the pinna, and they're sent into the external auditory meters, and when they go, they, bang this eardrum. Now, after the eardrum. Now, after this eardrum or the primary tympanum, which I told you, there is an air-filled cavity, and this air-filled cavity is called as the middle ear. Okay. So, as I told you earlier, the middle ear, it consists of 3 tiny smaller bones, which are called as ear ossicles. So now there are 3 ear ossicles in mammals, including human. Fine. So, ये जो छोटी-छोटी bones हैं basically, these are called as ear ossicles, and there are 3 ear ossicles. And we are going to learn a mnemonic for remembering these 3 ear ossicles. So it goes like miss, hus, M for Malleus, I for Incus, S for stapes. These are the 3 ear ossicles which are present in the middle ear of a human ear, Okay. So here it goes. So this particular structure is basically a bone which is hammer-like in shape. और लैटिन भाषा में, लैटिन लैंग्वेज में हैमर शब्द के लिए जो टर्म यूज किया जाता है, दैट इज, या हैमर लाइक ऑब्जेक्ट के लिए जो टर्म यूज किया जाता है, दैट टर्म इज कॉल्ड एज malleus. Okay, so the first bone, I'm writing it here like this is the ear ossicle 1. Then with this hammer-like or hammer-shaped ear ossicle, which is called as malleus, one more ear ossicle is attached, and it is called as the incus, right? Incus is the Latin word which is used for anvil. What is an anvil? आप कॉबलर के पास जाते हैं, तो जैसे ही आप बताते हैं कि मेरे शू में या मेरे फुटवेयर में प्रॉब्लम है, it tells you to keep your leg on a iron object. So that iron object with a flat top, it is called as the anvil, right? So the next structure I'm going to draw is basically an anvil, right? So the next structure which we are going to draw, I'll draw it with a different color, it's called as the anvil. So this is how basically the anvil is, right? A little bit of point here. And then to this anvil, which is the second ear ossicle which is present in your middle ear, then there is a third ear ossicle which is present, and then this particular ear ossicle, is called as the stapes, and stapes in Latin is used to denote the shape which is called as stirrup shape. Do you know what is stirrup? घुड़सवारी करी कभी, horse riding. So horse riding करी हो, या when you go to gyms for cycling, you fix your sole or your leg into a structure so that it will get stabilized. So वो जो घुड़सवारी करते वक्त जब हम horse पे बैठते हैं तो हमारा पैर जिसमें हम फंसाते हैं for support, that is what is called as stirrup shaped structure. As such a structure like this, right? Such a structure is called as stirrup shaped structure. and stirrup shaped structure, this is basically called as the stapes. And stapes is the smallest ear ossicle, right? Or the smallest bone which is present in your ear. So this is malleus, this is incus, and this is stapes, right? The malleus and incus, they are joined together by hinge joint. Hinge joint, you know, if you have studied the synovial joints, the flat joints, right? Like this. So such joints basically are called as the hinge joints. And incus and stapes, they are connected by ball and socket joint. Also a type of synovial joint, as you may know. So this whole structure basically is enclosed in a cavity, right? And this cavity is basically called as the middle ear cavity or the air cavity, because this cavity is filled by air essentially. Okay, is it clear to everyone? So this structure basically, this whole structure basically, this is the middle ear cavity. So I'm writing it here itself that it is an air cavity, right? It is filled with air and it is called as the middle ear cavity. Essentially, it's filled with air. Please remember that. And this structure here, this is called as station tube. And this station tube, it connects your middle ear to the pharynx. And it equalizes pressure basically on both the sides of your middle ear. So, कभी आपने प्लेन में अगर टेक ऑफ किया है तो कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं जिनके ईयर्स में दर्द हो जाता है when the flight takes off. Or if you have done scuba diving or deep sea diving, so when you go underwater, the air pressure increases and it reflects by a strong pinpointed pain in your ears. So that is, at that time, basically the air pressure is increasing, and that air pressure is increased by either you yawn or there is a slight sound which clears that air pressure, and that is actually the station tube doing its work. So the station tube, it connects the middle ear cavity or the middle ear to the pharynx, and it equalizes pressure on both sides of basically the eardrum, right? The side and this side. So this basically is your middle ear. Now we'll come to the most important part of the ear. Not most important, ऐसा नहीं कि इनको हटा दोगे तो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, definitely फर्क पड़ेगा. But the most important, because here the major changes are going to happen. So this basically was your stapes, as I've told you. इसको हम थोड़ा सा अच्छे से ड्रॉ करेंगे. And then the stapes or the middle ear opens into the inner ear with the help of two windows, two openings which are called as windows, right? So one of the window is here. See how it is shaped? It is shaped oval. And one of the window, how it is shaped? It is shaped round. So one is the oval window and the lower one is the round window. Well, I'm going to write it here. Okay. So this is the oval window. अभी oval window तो हम layman language में कह रहे हैं. अगर technical term use करना है तो क्या कहेंगे? We are going to call it as fenestra. Fenestra means window, opening. And because it is oval in shape, fenestra ovalis, right? And this here, the tiny one, this is round in shape, so it is called as round window. Or it is also called as fenestra rotunda or rotundus, because round, right? So fenestra ovalis and fenestra rotunda. Now this the circular portion or the base of the stapes rests on the oval window like this. It overlaps. Okay? And here it is a chota round window which is present. Now, after these two structures, basically all of your inner ear is in the form of a snail-shaped circular labyrinth-like structure which is called as the cochlea. So this is that part which actually makes you hear things, the cochlea, right? So basically outer ear हमने डिस्कस किया, outer ear के बाद यहाँ तक का हमारा जो पोर्शन हो गया, this is the middle ear, right? And inside the middle ear there is inner ear. अंदर हमेशा काम की चीज छुपा के रखी जाती है, डेलिकेट चीज छुपा के जो रखी जाती है. So here you is the cochlea. अभी ध्यान से अगर देखोगे तो cochlea takes about 2/3/4 turn. 1 round, 2 round, and then the 3/4 round. And the total length of cochlea is 3.5 millimeters. छोटा सा structure है, but then it is converged. It is rounded to form a labyrinth-like structure. And then basically at the top of it is present another extensive structure.
When I look into your eyes,
The maintenance of balance. And that structure, my dear students, is the vestibular apparatus. Right? So basically, you have got 3 canals which are called as the semicircular canals lying perpendicular to each other, 90 degrees to each other. The anterior, the posterior, and the lateral. So this is the first semicircular canal, this is second, this is the third, right? So this here structure, कोने जैसा structure है, इसको हम कहते हैं वेस्टिब्यूल. एटीएम में गए कभी छोटा सा कमरा होता है, तो छोटे से कमरे को, छोटी सी जगह को वेस्टिब्यूल कहा जाता है. So here it is the छोटी सी जगह which is called as vestibule. Onto the vestibule there are 3 semicircular canals which are posed right angles to each other. So anterior, आगे वाला, पीछे वाला, side वाला. So there are 3 semicircular canals which are placed like this. And this particular part, these 3 semicircular canal along with the vestibule, they help in the maintenance of the balance, the static and the dynamic balance. Okay. Now, so this is the cochlea wala part, this is the vestibular apparatus, both of these make the inner ear, right? And to your surprise, this inner ear is filled with fluid. यहाँ पे है air, यहाँ पे है fluid. Air कैसा medium है? Rarer medium. Water या fluid कैसा medium है? Denser medium. When sound or light, especially sound I'm talking about, it is traveling from a rarer medium to denser medium, its intensity decreases. Right or wrong? And that is why there is a liver system which is made up of these 3 ear ossicles when they vibrate with each other. देखो आवाज आई, eardrum फनफना, इस पे vibrations हुए, इसने मेलियस को दी, मेलियस ने इनकस को दिए, इनकस ने स्टेप्स को दिए, स्टेप्स ने स्टेपीज ने किसको दिया? ओवल विंडो. यहाँ पे जितना वाइब्रेशन हुआ है उससे आपकी साउंड वेव्स 10 times amplify हो जाती है. And then to the surface area of your eardrum and your fenestra ovalis into 2.2 times magnification or amplification of the sound waves takes place. So when your sound comes in from the external auditory meatus and it hits the eardrum and then it is transferred to the middle ear, it basically amplifies by 22.2 times. Yeah, basically, sorry. 22.2 times it amplifies, so that when from air to fluid the sound wave will travel, कुछ एम्पलीट्यूड उसका कम होगा तो भी इतना कम ना हो जाए कि परसीव ही नहीं कर पाए. That is what is the function of these three ossicles which make a liver system, my dear students. Now, we are going to study the structure of this labyrinth, of this cochlea now. So cochlea इतना घुमावदार था, उसको पढ़ने के लिए उसको खोलना पड़ा मैडम को. तो मैडम ने उसको खोल दिया. अभी कैसे खोला देखो. So this was basically our oval window, this was basically our round window. और उसके बाद से ऐसे घुमा दिया था 2, 3, 4 टर्न ले लिया. तो मैडम ने उसको पढ़ने के लिए क्या कर लिया, हमने बेसिकली उसको ओपन कर दिया. So when we now opened it, ओपन करके हमने इसको लीनियर बना लिया. यही तो हम करते क्या है, घूमी हुई चीजों को सीधा करते हैं तो वो हमें समझ आती. So that is what we have done here. हमने कोक्लिया को ओपन कर लिया. Now कोक्लिया को ओपन किया बट बाकी का स्ट्रक्चर तो वैसा ही था. इधर हमारा vestibular apparatus and semicircular canals were present. This is the vestibule. These are the semicircular canals. Right? I'm writing it in short form. You cannot. चलिए, अब बात करते हैं. सुना, ये बताया था मैंने तुम लोगों को round window. And to your surprise, this round window beta, it is also called as the secondary tympanum. जब मैंने बोला eardrum को हम primary tympanum बोलते हैं, primary किसी को तभी बोला है जब कुछ secondary है. So this round window is the secondary tympanum, you see. And this one is your oval window. Oval window or fenestra ovalis. So here in this, your cochlea or the inner ear consists of labyrinth. And labyrinth is made up of bony labyrinth, right? Inside which there are softer parts which are called as the membranous labyrinth. So bony labyrinth, बाहर और अंदर की तरफ membranous labyrinth. So this particular part, this is the bony labyrinth का part. And the अंदर वाला part, inner part is the basically your membranous labyrinth. Okay, now we have to name these compartments. So see, if you can see the structures, there are 3 compartments which you can see. So these 3 compartments needs to be named. So because this compartment is near to the vestibular apparatus, this is called as scala vestibuli. Scala मतलब part हो गया जो कि vestibule के पास है. So this part is scala vestibuli. This is in between. So this is called as scala media. Right? And this is the third part which is near to the round window. Because it is near to the round window, I can name it related to the round window which is called as secondary tympanum. So because this is secondary tympanum, this particular part is called as scala tympani. So the cochlea is divided into 3 compartments, my dear children. First, the above one, scala vestibuli. Then the middle one, scala media, and then the last one which is near to the round window, the secondary tympanum, basically the scala tympani. So cochlea from the inner side is divided into 3 compartments. Scala vestibuli, scala tympani. 1 and 3, they belong to the bony labyrinth part, right? And the scala media or the cochlear duct, it belongs to the membranous part. Okay? So this membranous labyrinth, it is filled with the fluid. अंदर है ना, अंदर के लिए हम term use करते हैं endo. फ्लूइड हमारी बॉडी में दो है, या तो है ब्लड, राइट, या तो है लिम्फ, या बेसिकली दोनों का कॉमन कंस्टिट्यूएंट विच इज द प्लाज्मा. सो अंदर की तरफ जो फ्लूइड है, अंदर यानी एंडो फ्लूइड यानी लिम्फ, तो मेम्ब्रेनस लेबिरिंथ या स्केला मीडिया या जो डक्ट्स होती हैं सेमी सर्कुलर कैनाल्स की, उसके अंदर जो फ्लूइड होता है वो होता है एंडोलिम्फ. और बाहर की तरफ जो है इसे हम कहते हैं बेसिकली बोनी लेबिरिंथ. तो बोनी लेबिरिंथ बाहर है यानी पेरीफेरी पर है. तो बाहर की तरफ हमें जो फ्लूइड मिलेगा दैट इज स्केला वेस्टिबुलर, स्केला टिम्पैनी में मिलेगा, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज पेरीलिम्फ. Now can you see this thing? That the scala vestibuli and scala tympani, otherwise they are separated. When as you come here at this part, it is common, right? Pathway ऐसा घूम के आता है, U-turn. So this particular part where both are linked to each other, it is called as helicotrema. And because of this helicotrema, the perilymph is common in the upper part, that is the scala vestibuli, and the lower part, that is scala tympani. Fine. So this basically is the structure of your inner ear, right? So the outer ear, the middle ear, and then the inner ear. So these three parts of the ear and then the subparts of these parts of the ear constitute the complete structure of your ear, right? So the next lecture we can discuss about the structure of the vestibular apparatus and how it regulates the basically the balance. So if we are going to talk about the mechanism of hearing, we need to have a receptor cell that helps our body, our brain to perceive that stimulus of the sound, right? And that particular receptor, that particular part of your ear which is responsible for that sound perception is called as the organ of Corti. Let's discuss that in better detail. So before that, I'm going to tell you or quickly revise what all has happened for you to hear that sound. रात को अपन सोते सोते एकदम आवाज आ रही है, चमक के उठ जाते हैं, हुआ क्या होता है? So basically what has happened is the external pinna has converged sound waves from all the directions, right? बहुत धीमी सी आवाज भी सुन सकते हो आप. So this has concentrated all the sound waves from 20 to 20,000 hertz. Clear? Then it has sent it into the external auditory meters. यहाँ पे dust, germs ये सब चिपक गए hair में और ear wax में, जो timely आपको निकालना होता है to maintain the auditory hygiene, you know. Then this auditory meatus stops or ends at a connective tissue flap-like structure, right? Which from the outer side is covered by the skin and the inner side is covered by mucous membrane, MOCUOS, mucous membrane, right? This is the eardrum or the primary tympanum or the tympanic membrane, right? From में यहाँ से start हो रहा था, right? एक ही ossicle था. Humans में, mammals में इसके पहले भी structure है like pinna and external auditory meatus. तो आवाज आई, पिन्ना ने कॉन्वर्ज करी, अंदर भेजी एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटरी मीटस में, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटरी मीटस से आवाज जाकर के टकराई ईयर ड्रम पे, ईयर ड्रम वाइब्रेट होने लगा. ईयर ड्रम वाइब्रेट हुआ तो उससे कोई जुड़ा हुआ था. अब तुम किसी से जुड़े हुए खुश है तो तुम भी खुश होगे, राइट? और दुखी है तो तुम भी दुखी होगे. तो वैसे ही आवाज आई, ईयर ड्रम वाइब्रेट हुआ, ईयर ड्रम के कारण मेलियस वाइब्रेट हुई, मेलियस जुड़ी थी इनकस से, इनकस वाइब्रेट हुई, इनकस से जुड़ी हुई थी स्टेपीज, स्टेपीज वाइब्रेट हुई. तीनों ने मिलके इतना वाइब्रेट करा कि साउंड जिस भी एम्पलीट्यूड का आया था वो एम्पलीफाई हो गया 10 टाइम्स, राइट? एंड देन जब ये सब लीवर सिस्टम बना रहे हैं बेसिकली, देन क्योंकि स्टेपीज का जो फ्लैप था वो आपकी ओवल विंडो से पैरेलल रहता है, उसी पे रखा रहता है. तो क्योंकि स्टेपीज में वाइब्रेशन हुआ तो ओवल विंडो या फेनेस्ट्रा ओवेलिस में भी वाइब्रेशन, इसने 2.2 टाइम्स एम्पलीफाई किया, तो टोटल एम्पलीफिकेशन हो गया 22x, राइट? देन क्योंकि ये वाइब्रेट हुई फेनेस्ट्रा ओवेलिस के अंदर हम जा रहे थे तो फ्लूइड था, यहाँ पे रिपल आएगा, यहाँ पे वाइब्रेशन होगा तो पेरिलिम्फ के अंदर रिपल आएगा, पेरिलिम्फ के अंदर रिपल आएगा तो स्केला वेस्टिबुला, स्केला टिम्पानी में रिपल आएगा, इन दोनों फ्लूइड्स में रिपल आएगा तो टिम्पानी के ऊपर जो रूफ है वो हिलेगी और पेरिलिम्फ के नीचे जो बेस है, जो फ्लोर है, वो हिलेगा। तो बेसिकली अगर हम आगे का स्ट्रक्चर देखें तो क्या हो रहा है, ध्यान से देखना। So basically अगर हम अब कॉक्लिया के अंदर का स्ट्रक्चर देखते हैं कि हो क्या रहा है, so if this is the cochlea, right, this was your oval window, this is your round window, this is your round window, and then there is scala vestibuli, scala media, and this is scala vestibuli, this is scala media, this is scala tympani, right? इधर कौन सा फ्लूइड है, पेरिलिम्फ है, यहां पर भी पेरिलिम्फ है क्योंकि बोनी लेबिरिंथ का पार्ट है, और इधर है आपका एंडोलिम्फ। तो इमेजिन करो कि राउंड विंडो, सॉरी ओवल विंडो, राउंड विंडो, यहां पर डिस्टर्बेंस आया है तो ये डिस्टर्बेंस पेरिलिम्फ में भी ट्रांसमिट होगा, पेरिलिम्फ में ट्रांसमिट होगा तो ये स्केला टिम्पानी में भी जाएगा। स्केला टिम्पानी की जो रूफ है, राइट, दिस रूफ ऑफ scala tympani is basically the base of scala media. So this base membrane of scala media, it is called as basilar membrane. Okay, and the roof of scala media, R for roof, it is called as the Reasoner's membrane. Base, basilar, roof, Reasoners. In between this base and roof lies your organ of Corti, which consists of supporting cells, which consists of your hair cells, which have smaller stereocilia attached to it. So when the sound wave comes, there is disturbance in perilymph, perilymph में disturbance होगा तो basilar membrane में disturbance होगा, basilar membrane में vibration होगा, supporting cells में vibration होगा, hair cells में vibration होगा, और hair cells जाकर के टकरा जाएंगे एक membrane से. This membrane is called as the tectorial membrane. Tectorial. Tecto word means touch, right? So when these, see, imagine there are stereocilia and there is a tectorial membrane. So basement membrane या basilar membrane से जैसे vibration आएगा तो ये hair cells जो हैं ये touch हो जाएंगे. आप ये tectorial membrane है, ये hair cells के stereocilia. So these stereocilia they'll touch the tectorial membrane. And जैसे ही touch होने से ये हेयर सेल्स बेंड होंगे, जैसे ही टच होने से ये हेयर सेल्स बेंड होंगे, देयर विल बी depolarization taking place, and this depolarization will generate an action potential and will give this particular impulse or signal to basically the cochlear branch. Cochlear branch because it is associated with hearing. Cochlear branch of auditory nerve, and the auditory cranial nerve is which one, bacho? The 8th cranial nerve, which is the auditory nerve. And this is how, as the hair cells will bend and touch the tectorial membrane, there will be opening of voltage gated sodium channels, right? Influx of sodium, and depolarization will take place, an action potential will be generated, an impulse will be generated, and this impulse will be carried to the auditory nerve. But which branch? दो ब्रांचेस हैं, एक है बैलेंस के लिए वेस्टिबुलर ब्रांच, एक है सुनने के लिए ऑडिटरी ब्रांच. सो एफरेंट फाइबर्स रहेंगे किसके? cochlear branch of auditory nerve, which is the 8th cranial nerve, and that is how this cranial nerve is going to take the impulse of that audition, of that hearing, to the association areas which are present in your brain in the frontal cortex, and the voice and the sound will be recognized and processed. So basically, this is a smaller portion of what is ear, what functions, what physiology is done, what is the structure of a human ear, what all parts are there, what all functions are contributed by different parts, and how we actually hear any sound, how we perceive, how we process any sound using these stato-acoustic engineering marvels, well fitted into the most extensive and most fascinating engineering marvel that is the human body. So that is all from my side today. Let's hope to meet you soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Signing off, Mona Bhatnagar. Thank you so much.